Well, thank you guys so much for joining. We can go ahead and get started, and I'm going to give Anna a chance to introduce herself in just a moment. But today we are gathered to have this talk on how to build an authentic personal brand. I discovered Anna via the entrepreneur.com website. I was listening to one of her webinars, and it was just completely groundbreaking for me. And it was in the beginning of starting the MoveForward community and creating my website. I was in the process of building my website. I was in the process of building my social platform for MoveForward. And she has so many valuable tools to really apply to all of your businesses that I just had to reach out to her and see if I could bring her onto this group. So I'm so excited and honored to have her here today. I'm really excited to dive into this with you guys. Everyone here knows what the MoveForward mission is, but I'll share that with Anna. My mission is really to create a space where leaders in the fitness industry can come together, share resources, access marketing tools, and most importantly, to build community. The nature of our industry is really siloed. So similar to, any entrepreneurial industry, it's just a grind on your own. So I really wanted to build a community to bring together all these amazing women, just to have dialogue, especially with what's going on in the industry right now, with so many studios closing and so many teachers being furloughed and having to go start businesses on their own. I want this to be a place where we can empower each other and move forward together, hence the name MoveForward Community. So you guys, a little bit about Anna. She is an entrepreneur, she's a speaker, and she is a personal branding consultant. She's been featured in lots of different publications, and she really just has so much value to bring to this group. Anna, I would love for you to share a little bit more detail about your background too. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kristen. Honestly, so impressed by all of you and so blown away actually with everything that you are building and have built thus far. And I'm really honored to be here and to speak with all of you. And I think no matter what industry you're in, the one thing we all share and one thing we all have in common is we are passionate about helping people lift the quality of their lives. And I think that I'm really excited to share a little bit on how to build an authentic personal brand and how you can apply some of these tips and strategies and tools so that you can really convey the essence of who you are online and attract people to your mission as a human being and as the mission of your company too. So I am a personal brand strategist. I am also the host of the Personal Branding Podcast. So check that out if you are hungry for some more personal branding goodies and knowledge. I also run an accelerator program called Personal Brand Accelerator that is my baby. It runs quarterly. We enroll about 15 to 20 entrepreneurs in this program every round. And so that is where a lot of my energy is invested and focused. And it's also very much about building community and helping to provide a space for entrepreneurs who have similar goals and aspirations to come together and really share what they're working on and affirm one another in their purposes. I am originally from the Bay Area. I just put all of my stuff in storage, ended my lease, and decided to make a road trip across the country by myself. I was feeling very called to make a change and just challenge myself and really expand everything that I think it was a season of expansiveness, and that's what this has been for me. And I'm currently in Boston. I felt really pulled here. I ended up here somehow. I didn't really have an itinerary or a direct path that I was taking. I just kind of went and ended up here, and it's been beautiful. I might stay a little bit longer than I anticipated, so TBD on that. But
I love it. I love it. And how cool is it? And we talk about this on our MoveForward talks, but how cool is it that you can do your job anywhere? Like it's such a liberating thing. And I've been experiencing that too while I've been in Europe for the last almost 4 months. But it's so liberating for all of us that we can do what we love and work on our passion and cultivate it from anywhere in the world right now. So it's so, so cool.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, it's one of the things I'll talk about a little bit today just the freedom that comes with a personal brand, but that comes with an authentic personal brand. And I really want to talk about what it means to get paid for who you are and not just what you do. And that's going to be a big part of what we discussed today. So yeah, other than that, you can always find me on my website, annavatuone.com, on my socials. So, and we'll save some time at the end for questions and stuff. So.
Yes. And if you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll make sure to get to them at the end. I'm just going to cover, what we're going to be covering today and just start off with a little bit of background about personal branding, and then I'll hand it over to Anna. So today what we're going to go over is Anna's going to walk you through the basics for personal branding, uncovering your personal brand story, discovering your ideal brand adopter. So who are your ideal clients? The importance of a personal website, which I know a lot of you have or are in the process of building right now. She's really tailored her talk to really touch on that. Optimizing your social media profiles, with so many of you already have super strong social profiles, but it's all about consistency when it comes to personal branding. And then last, creating a personal marketing plan. We'll definitely have time for questions. We'll make sure to save time for that. So just to kick us off, I want to have you guys all put in the chat, is there someone that you can think of that has super clear personal branding? So much so that if you see an image of that person or you hear their name, you associate it instantly with a feeling or a quality of experience. Go ahead and put in the chat who comes top of mind to you right off the bat. Jillian Michaels. Ooh, cool. Oprah, yes. Who else? Jess says Ellen. Oh, good one. The Howie. Yes. Lindsay, you are totally. Jason Wimberly. Yes. Erica Hood. Yes. She's so great. I love it. You guys can keep putting them in. And Lisa, I love it. Okay, well, Christy guessed the one that I wanted to share with you guys. Oprah always comes top of mind for me. And I love this quote that she shares. Purpose is the thread that connects the dots with everything you do that leads you to an extraordinary life. And I love the idea of a thread that connects everything, because that's truly what personal branding does. It's supposed to be consistent through every single platform that you're on, with every single thing you do, down to the conversations that you're having with your clients, down to the text message reminders that you're sending to your clients before class, down to the thank you notes that you're sending after virtual retreats. Whatever it is, there's a common thread that includes your DNA, your personal brand, and everything that you do. And Oprah, I think, resonates with that. When you think of Oprah, you instantly think of this strong female entrepreneur who uses her voice, she uses her platform, she loves giving giveaways, like you get a car, she's so well spoken. She is just such a leader in her industry. There's so many amazing qualities that you instantly think of her. And the thing is, if you asked probably 100 people, they would all have maybe the same 3 things to say about her. That just shows the strength of a personal brand. Another quote that I wanted to kick off this webinar with is, the goal of branding isn't to attract everyone, it's to attract the right people who resonate with you and your brand. And I think that this is something that we often get confused with when we're thinking of just growing our social following and just reaching a number. It's not necessarily the number, it's the engagement. It's having the right people following you and attracting your ideal customer, because that's really where you can make the most impact. So the clearer that you are on your personal brand in standing for your value and leaning into your gifts, your edge, the more you're going to have an easier time attracting the right clients for you. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Anna and let her dive into the basics of personal branding.
And you will move the slides for me?
Yes.
Love it. Perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive in. We've got a lot to cover. I'm going to go through these, each slide with you. And as you come up with questions, definitely submit them, put them in the chat box, and we'll get to them at the end. So there is a very common misconception that people have about personal branding, that it's this like crafted, manicured, polished presentation that you really have to, they think of personal branding almost as if you would brand a company, right? And there's a lot of thought and strategy that goes into that. But really, a personal brand is actually just a holistic, authentic representation of who we truly are offline. So the way that we're communicating, the way that we speak to our colleagues and our customers and our clients, the way that we interact with our families, our children, our partners, what we do on the weekends, all of that, all of these different aspects of our lives really should be communicated online, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people who follow us, our audience, our community, a real window into who we are and to what we do and why we do what we do. So it's not a construct. It's not a box that you have to try to fit yourself inside of. It actually helps you get outside of that box, and it gives you freedom when you are open and willing to share the truth of your experiences and the truth of who you are online, which also takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of, you have to be brave to really put yourself online like this in an authentic way. And I think most of you do an excellent job at that already. But what I love so much about personal branding is that when you do that, when you do have enough grit and moxie and strength to put yourself out there in this way, people begin to know you and they start to get a deeper sense of who you really are. And that transcends industries, transcends careers and titles and profession. So it gives you ultimate freedom because you're building a community of people who like you, the person, and who will follow you and be a loyal brand adopter no matter what you're doing in your life. And that is the most powerful part of personal branding. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through this. Okay, we got to address it. So what people think they need, what versus what people really need. So the goal most of the time when people are first thinking about personal branding and social media, it's usually about like, okay, followers. How do I build an audience? How do I build a platform? And of course, you know, that's part of it. But just like Kristen was saying, the goal really is not to have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers. It's to have engaged followers, people who are really invested in you, the professional and the person, and who are interested in what you have to say and are really engaged in everything that you're sharing, because that is what converts. 10,000 followers who aren't invested and who could really care less, it's not going to go as far and it's not going to carry as much weight. So the goal here is to build community with the people that you already have. And when you are authentic, that's like a magnet. It will attract the right people to your brand. Personal branding. So content for you versus content for your audience. A lot of times people think about personal branding as, you know, this is something that I'm doing for myself. I want to enhance my public profile. I want to make sure that I am an industry expert and that people can see that. And of course, that's important, but really personal branding is about leadership. It's about stepping into a real place of service and having empathy for the people that you were trying to serve. And when you look at it that way, you cannot lose, because every piece of content you put online, you know, whether it be educational or encouraging, really, you should be asking yourself in the back of your head, who is this for? Who is this really? Who am I seeking to benefit through this? And when you put that thinking cap on, it allows you to create more purposefully, and the content will really hit harder. Would you mind going right back up, Kristen, really quick? Perfect. The other thing is when we're looking at content, and this actually does go back into target audience. So content that appeals to the masses versus content that appeals to your target audience. It can be really hard to, when you're creating content for your personal brand, to think about, okay, obviously you want to put out stuff that you feel like people will really like, but also you want to make sure that you are keeping in mind, who is this for? And it's okay to be polarizing. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to share that openly with people, because you do want to attract the right people. And that's how you do it. And then we're going to get into this a little bit later, but there's this also misconception where it's about quality versus quantity. And it's not so much quality is better than quantity, but I truly believe that quantity equals quality. So the more content that you're producing, the more you're showing up online, the more consistent you are in the act of sharing what you know, the better your content will get. And that's what it's about. So this is a high level overview, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this as we go in through these slides. Okay, so uncovering your personal brand story. This is the first step I take all of my clients and all of my students through. And it's often the step that people, they don't usually think about right away. When you think of a personal brand, often we're thinking about social media, we're thinking about website and stuff, and all of that is important, but really the story element is it. This is what creates that strong connection between you and your engaged audience. Our minds think in stories. We are constantly using stories to help us understand and synthesize information. And so what happens when you uncover your own personal brand story and share that openly with your audience, what that does is it elicits an emotional response in people. It gives them a deeper sense of empathy, and it also helps them to see themselves in your story. And so you're creating that really strong connection with people, which creates a deeper sense of trust and loyalty too. So I want to talk with you all quickly about what it means to uncover this story and craft it in a really compelling way. And so when I say personal brand story, what you want to be thinking about here is, what is the story and the message that I feel really called to share? What is the story that demonstrates where I've been and how it has brought me here today? What are the obstacles in my life that I have faced and triumphed over? And it's not necessarily about reaching this level of perfection, but it's about sharing your journey and what it ultimately took for you to get to the place you are right now that your target audience wants to be. So essentially, you need to embody you are the fully expressed version of what your clients and potential customers want to become. And that story needs to demonstrate that. And so, yeah.
I was going to say, I love that you are talking about the whole view of everything that has happened up until this moment creates who you are. Because I think so often we try to recite the story as just the best parts and the highlights and the wins, because we want that perfection. But that's not what people relate to. In terms of your story, what the parts that they relate to are the hardest parts, right? Like the mishaps, or the year that was the hardest for you, and then what happened next. And so, I think that's part of what this community is about, is being able to be vulnerable and share the full story, because it turns out that someone else in the room, this virtual room, is going through something similar or has gone through the same thing. And it just strengthens the community and strengthens the bond. So I think that's an important thing. And there's one quote that I heard, I forget who it was that said it, but it's always stuck with me. And it's, we are most equipped to serve the person that we used to be. And so that's really like, speaking to our followers, they want to hear the journey, because they are going through something that we were maybe going through last year or the year before.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you actually shared that, because one of the things that we end up finding, and most of my clients and students come to this point of realization, that their personal brand is meant to serve the person they were 10, 15 years ago. And so when you think about your target audience and your ideal brand adopter in that light, it actually really gives you such deep insight into the type of person you're serving, what their desires are, what their fears are, what they're motivated by. And it allows you to become a more savvy marketer and business owner too, because you really understand who you're serving on a radically deep level. And that comes from your own self-knowledge and awareness, right?
Yeah.
So moving down, let's talk a little bit about, I kind of covered this. So why you need a personal brand story. Cornerstone, it's the very thing that your personal brand rests upon. It's like the foundation. It's why you do what you do. This would be the story that you would share at a keynote presentation. It could be the story that is the basis for your book. It could be the story that's on the about section of your website, or in an Instagram story highlight. So think about your story that way. It's something that's a living, breathing part of your brand. It gives people context. It lets them know why. It just helps them place you in their minds. They can they can understand why you're here and why you're doing what you're doing. Connection, we've talked a lot about that, but what comes from connection is commitment. So when someone really knows your story, they have a deeper sense of loyalty and commitment to you than they will any other fitness professional out there. And that's the thing that I try to help people understand too. One of the biggest fears I think that comes up for a lot of my clients who are coaches and in many different industries is how is what I'm doing different than what she's doing? You know, how is it different? How do I find my niche? And it's not necessarily about finding a specific niche or doing something differently. It's more about you are coaching people through your own lens, a unique lens. You have a unique array of experiences and a rich flow of experiences which have happened to you. And that causes you to see the world in a different way, in a unique way. And when you share your story, what that does is it does distinguish you from every other professional out there. And so you'll be able to attract the right people when you do share this story. And you will have your audience feel a stronger sense of commitment to you. Yes. Okay, moving on to the next.
I love that. And I just wanted to add one thing. I feel like, so many people in the fitness industry have fear that there are so many instructors in this space that there's not enough room for everyone. And this community is all about, that there is room for everyone, because everyone has their own personal brand and everyone has a different gift. And like you said, a different lens. And so, for example, if Lindsay Howe had a dance routine and Jessica stole it and taught the exact same routine, it would be a completely different experience for the same group of people, because they are different people. They have different gifts. They have different ways of communicating. They have different energy, and your energy is your secret sauce. That is part of your personal brand. And that's what creates enough space for everyone to have their own set of clients and for the world to continue on. Yeah. So I just wanted to call that out.
And it's like, it also, when you realize this, when it clicks in your head, you then, like, I'm very comfortable with the fact that there are probably many personal brand coaches out there. There's many business coaches, and they all are capable, competent, wonderful coaches. And I don't feel threatened by that. I feel excited and I want to collaborate with people who are in my industry, because I know that we all are unique in our own right and we will attract different audiences. And so when you do get that, it enables you to be a more effective collaborator. Is collaborator a word? I don't know.
Yeah. I love that. I agree.
Okay, so what story to share, right? We have so many experiences that we can pull from. And it's important to remember that this story doesn't necessarily have to be your life's journey, all condensed into one perfect crafted story. It just needs to be the one that's the most relevant to your audience, and the one that you feel the most called to share, the one that reveals why you do what you do and how it's brought you to the moment you are right now. So think of the story. What could this be for you? And I would go back to the question of, why are you building your personal brand, and why do you want to serve your audience in the way that you do, or serve your clients in the way that you do. That will give you incredible insight into which story you should be sharing. And remember that when it comes to selecting this story, it doesn't always have to be this extraordinary, monumental event in our lives. That, very normal, everyday moments, what could feel mundane to us could be an extraordinary revelation for someone else. And so just think about, what are there moments that I can recall in my life that I can share? And you want to, as you're thinking about this story, it's not so much about recalling specific events as it is recalling how you felt as those events were happening, using vivid, rich adjectives to describe how things made you feel and how you were affected by it and how you were able to overcome and triumph ultimately in the end. And then the next slide, I will show you kind of what that structure looks like. So there are 3 structural elements that I teach people when they're thinking about the story. And so it's very simple. It's a very simple framework. It's just beginning, pivot, end. Beginning has one job to do, which is drop us into action. Just get us excited. You want the beginning of your story to grab your audience's attention. So, recalling a specific moment or a scene, or maybe it's dialogue between you and someone else. And everyone loves a hero's journey. So what you can do is tell us in the beginning of your story what you wanted that you currently didn't have. What was lacking in your life? What did you need that was far away from you? And show us that. What was that? The pivot point of your story needs to show us, what was the obstacle? What was the thing that ultimately made you switch directions? What was the crossroads? What were the 2 decisions that you were faced with where you had to pick one? The pivot shows us the conflict, the friction in your story. The end of the story pulls it all together. It shows us how the hero or the heroine was able to triumph in the end. How did you ultimately achieve or get what you wanted in the beginning of your story? So the end also, what you can do here, and this is the magic, this is where it happens, is you tie it back into your audience. You really want to communicate a lesson or a truth that they can also apply in their own lives. It needs to show them that you actually are the perfect person to help them overcome and to triumph in the way that you have. So that's a really good, easy framework that you can use when you're thinking about writing this story.
That I love how you've elaborated on that. I think that's like a great just thing that we can go around and have a few people share. All right, going into part 4.
Part 4, here we go. Okay, so a lot of times people ask me this question. A lot of you probably are very experienced with marketing, and it's like the chicken and the egg, right? So are you crafting this story for your target audience, or are you crafting this story because it's the story that you feel called to share? And I really believe that when it comes to personal branding, the story comes first, the audience comes second, because your personal brand, remember, like we said in the very beginning, is an authentic, holistic representation of who you are. So the story sets the stage, and it actually gives us a clue as to who will be your best, like who will be the person who's going to benefit the most from your knowledge and expertise. So once you've thought about, this is the story I feel called to share, this is why I want to build my personal brand, then you can look at, now, who does this really serve? Who is going to benefit the most from what I know? And well, like we talked about in the very beginning, a lot of times this person is who we were 5 to 10 years ago. Our personal brands are born out of problems we have solved for ourselves. Our businesses are born out of problems we have solved for ourselves. So that's an extraordinary clue that will point us in the right direction to who this will be for. And ultimately, like I said in the beginning too, I mean, this is about service. Personal branding is about stepping into a real place of leadership, because you have to be that person for people. You have to show up online and guide people towards a better, more richer, fulfilling life. And that's what all of you have already made a commitment to doing. So the next slide is going to give you, and I'll send you some worksheets that so I'll give you guys a copy of this. Yeah, so that you can all fill this out yourselves. But, I look at, and I call this ideal brand adopter, IBA, ideal brand adopter. So if you look at this chart on the left, we have stage of life, the type of lifestyle this person has, their gender identity, partnership status, all the way down to expertise and personality, fear, desire, motivators. Now, there's a real problem I have with traditional marketing, where you are trying to profile a specific type of person that you want to serve based on income, based on, how this person lives their life, based on education level. And what I find more fascinating, actually, especially when it comes to personal branding, and this is one of the nuances with this, is that typically you really want to lean hard on personality. So don't think so much about, okay, what is this person's income or what is this person's profession, but think about, as a person, who do I naturally connect with offline? Who are my friends? What values do they uphold? What are some of their fears? What do they desire? And when you can get to the core of that is all of the information you need to market yourself effectively and write copy and create content that is going to attract this person. So you want to make your personal brand accessible. You want to be thinking about, how can I make my services, my expertise, my knowledge available to a diverse group of people? And that, again, transcends income, it transcends lifestyle and education level. So think about personality. Think about, who do I actually jive with in real life? Because that's who you want to be attracting, and then really get to know that person. And again, that might have a lot to do with who you are too as a person. That's why this whole self-knowledge, really deepening your own knowledge about yourself, is so vital in this process too. So I will send all of you a chart where you can kind of jot down some notes and fill this out for yourselves too.
That would be great.
So I know that Kristen said a lot of you are in the process of building your personal websites. Maybe you already have one. If you don't have one, absolutely essential. And one of the things I tell people too is make sure that you have your first and last name as the domain. So this is a really controversial topic, because sometimes maybe your business is under a different name, totally cool, but you want to make sure that you own the rights to your name. Your name is prime digital real estate, and you really don't want anyone else building brand under it. So definitely have your name secured. Go buy it right now. And that goes for all of your social media profiles too. So you want to use, and what if it's first, middle, and yes, first, middle, and last name, perfect. And yeah, that's another thing too. If your name is really common and you're not able to secure it, the middle name is always a great addition and a great workaround. And actually, I love middle names. I think it's cute. So that's first things first. Second, you really want to think of your website as the digital hub. Every piece of content that goes out on these social media profiles should ultimately be driving traffic back to your website. And we do that strategically for SEO. We want to be think of every time someone visits your website, it's like a point. So you want to keep bringing people back. And a website is really where you have the most control over your narrative, and you have the ability to really shape the perception that you want people to have of your brand, which is, this is an authentic representation of who I am. And we're limited. We don't own our profiles on Instagram. We don't own our TikTok profile or our LinkedIn profile. Instagram owns it. Facebook owns it. LinkedIn owns it. Your website is something you own. And so
Yeah.
also you want to be thinking long-term. So many of you have probably already started writing your books, or maybe you want to run the speaking circuit. You're thinking long-term, big picture. That means you're going to need to have an email list. It means you're going to have these built out digital assets. And that's the website is where it starts. So you want to be thinking really strategically. And that's part of the reason why website's important too, is your email list and making sure that you at least have gotten that started. And that's a whole nother, maybe we need to do a workshop number 2 on email list.
Yeah. 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 I love that you call it the hub, and it does, the website does make it real. I like to tell this group that your website is essentially like inviting someone to your virtual home, especially right now with studio physical spaces not being open in some cities, and a lot of people starting their or moving their business to virtual. Your website really is your virtual home. The way you design it, the language that you use, how you present yourself on your website, it is like taking someone on a tour of your house. And so really, as you're creating it, thinking through all of these personal branding tips that Anna is sharing with us is so, so important. And side note, Christy said, if anyone needs help with a website, she can give you her husband's info. So that's such a great resource. Thanks, Christy, for sharing that.
I love that. Okay, so then as we were saying, so strategic, want to be thinking long-term, big picture. But before you really sit down to, and I'm sure a lot of you have websites, but if you haven't thought about this, you want to ask yourself, okay, what are the main goals? What do I actually want this website to do for me? Is it really just a live portfolio of your work? If so, awesome. Do you want to use it to sell your products and services? Do you want to use it to build your email list, speaking opportunities, media and press opportunities? I highly recommend prioritizing a list of 3 things. So number 1, number 2, number 3. So for example, if I look at my website, the main goal of my site is to sell my products and services. The second would be my email list and creating that community, bringing people into the brand, and nurturing those relationships. And then the third would be press, media opportunities, speaking opportunities, all of that. So I know that. And when I keep those 3 goals in mind, it dictates how I will structure my website and what pages need to be included and what copy needs to be there. So really just take some time to think about what are my goals, and if your current website is aligned with the objectives that you have for your brand and business.
This is really helpful. And I know the email list is a huge topic, but can you just quickly share your opinion on the difference between having a huge following on your Instagram account versus having a healthy email list?
Yes. So yes, great question. Your email list, think of your email list like your hard drive. So if Instagram were gone tomorrow, it would really screw a lot of people. Like, your audience is like your the electricity that keeps everything running, right? And so you want to secure, it's like an added layer of security. So your email list too. And when you're thinking about selling products and services and monetizing, email marketing is one of the best ways of doing that. And I actually see much higher conversion rates when I am using email versus just on Instagram. So, I mean, give or take. But when you're thinking about getting your email list started, one of the ways in which people build their email list quickly is by offering some freebie, right? So you want to think about, what is some valuable piece of information that I can offer people for free in exchange for their email address and information. So that's that's a great way to get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having that lead magnet to lead them to your website. I love it. Thank you.
Exactly. So, and then you want to think about, so if you are creating a lead magnet, this lead magnet should be a very good, should be like a little snippet of the bigger picture. So for example, the lead magnet that you'll see on my website is how to optimize your Instagram profile. And a lot of the stuff that I cover in that packet is all stuff that is in my Accelerator program. So when someone downloads that, it's a really good indicator to me that they're going to be a good fit for the program, or probably would be interested in my program. So you want to be thinking about, how does that coincide with your services that you're offering or your products? So when it comes to building your own site versus hiring someone to do it for you, it really just comes down to, what resources do you have at your disposal? Do you have time? If you have time and you want to go through the process of creating it yourself, it's actually really fun. And there's so many website builders out there that are awesome. Like, setting your site up on Squarespace is not that difficult. Same with Wix or Showit. I'm not a WordPress fan, but everyone has their own preference. And so ask yourself, is it something I really want to do? And if it is, I would encourage you to, because I think that setting up your own website is actually a great way to get your ducks in a row and get organized and really think through how you want to set up your business and brand. When you hire someone to do it for you, you're going to get a more professional, customized look. Like, it's just going to look it's going to look custom. It's going to look beautiful. Not that your own wouldn't, but just ask yourself, what's more important to me right now? Like, what do I actually have time for, and what do I want to make time for?
Yeah, I did a little bit of both. So like you said, it was definitely a good exercise for me to try to create my own website initially, because it's basically like you're doing a rough draft, or you're writing everything down that you want to communicate and show of yourself. But I'm also a big proponent of allocate work out that isn't your strength. Building a website is not my strength. And as artistic and creative as I am, building a beautiful website was not my strength. After 6 weeks, I was like, I hate it. Like, this is not the feeling. This is not the home that I want to bring everyone into. And so if you are similar to me and it takes you 5 times longer than it should to build your own website, find a great web designer like Christy's husband. Find someone who can really create the personal brand that you're hoping to showcase. I felt like it was worth it. Yeah. So it just depends on
that. I'm so glad you said that too, because there are so many things in my business where I've had to really take a hard look and be like, oh, all right, it's time. I've got to outsource this. Yeah. But on the other side of the spectrum too, when it came to websites, I actually designed my own website and became really, I loved that process, because I felt challenged by it, and it was an area that I wanted to learn more about. So for me, it was about growth. And I think it's all about knowing your strengths and where you want to build upon those strengths, and where you know that, okay.
Yeah. And your website is beautiful. You guys all have to check it out. It's really, really beautiful. I love it.
Okay, so let's move on. So after that website is created, and that really should come as first priority before any optimization of other social media profiles, because the goal of your social profiles is to bring people to your website. So social media profiles, we talked about, this is the vehicle to grow your brand. All of you are active and are well-versed in how to use social media and how to engage an audience. I really encourage people to think of their profile photo as your logo. So the profile photo that you have on your Instagram should be the same on your LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. You want to think of that as your logo, and making sure that that photo really does show all of your beautiful features, that it's close up, it's high res. There's not a lot of clutter in the background, because that is the photo that people will associate when they think of you and your brand. I always say adopt the clear versus clever mindset. So when it comes to things like your bio, when it comes to like any of the copy that people read on your social profiles, there's this tendency that we have, especially as creators and people who are creative, to always want to have like the perfect words to say for it to be really clever and unique. And when you are building a business and building a brand community, the most important thing is that people understand what you are doing. So think about the most clear way to say what you want to say, and that's how you should be conveying the mission that you have for your brand. Because you have a mere matter of seconds that someone is on your profile while they are deciding whether or not you are someone they want to follow and pay attention to and be engaged with. So you have to really captivate them and give them a clear description of what your work is really about. And so that bio should be super clear, straight to the point. Kristen, do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, and I would just say, like, for the bio at the top of your Instagram profile, like, it's essentially, can you break down if you were to have like a 2-minute elevator pitch on what your offering is, can you break it down as clear as possible in that top bio of your IG?
Will you just go to my Instagram profile really quick?
Sure.
I'll just give you a quick little tidbit. And actually it works for any profile too, not even just Instagram, but perfect. Okay. So your handle should always be your first and last name. Again, same principles apply. You want to be clear. So, I mean, anything that's really like creative is awesome. You can use that in other places. But when it comes to your Instagram handle and any social handle, you want to make yourself so easily accessible so that when someone types your name in, your profile is the first thing that pops up. You don't want to make it difficult for people to find you. And we're also thinking about long-term big picture, speaking opportunities, press opportunities. If an editor goes to look for your name and they can't find you, boom, they're on to the next person. So when you, Kristen, if you mind going up really quick to the bio. Okay, so right underneath it where it says personal brand strategist, that is the name field, but I actually recommend putting your official title there. That's another SEO keyword strategy that you can use. So when people are searching for a keyword, your profile will pop up. So in my case, that would be personal brand. Right underneath it is where I call that's your personal brand statement. Many of you, I'm sure, already have this, but it's just so clear. I teach entrepreneurs how to build their personal brand. That's it. Right underneath it, you want to have credentials, anything that shows that you are an industry expert. So if you're a host of a podcast, if you work for an awesome company, if you've been featured in press, put that there. And then right underneath it, typically I'll say have a call to action. So that could be download my freebie or send me a DM or whatever you want it to do. Right now I have something a little bit different. And then the very
you have Linktree too is a good link to have there as well. If you have Linktree to kind of direct people to 5 different options as opposed to 1.
So I will say, I actually recommend not using Linktree because what that does is when someone clicks Linktree is getting the SEO points, not you. So have all of your buttons on your website and create a standalone page on your website that is meant to be a landing page for Instagram. So if you click annavatuone.com/Instagram, this is super easy to create in Squarespace, but it's set up for mobile view. So you'll see it's all kind of like smushed together. But okay, so find out where I'm moving, join the waitlist for PBA. And then if you scroll down, there's like some blog posts, there's a bio there. You can get more custom than you can with Linktree, but this is meant to replace Linktree. So think about that. You want any click that someone is, any click from your profile, you want that point, SEO point. I'm sure there's a better way to say an SEO point, but
Cool.
Yeah, that's a quick little Insta bio stuff. Is it better to have an Instagram as a creator account or business account? So you want to have a business account. And the reason being, Facebook will gather data on your audience if you have a business account. So you might not be ready to run ads right now, but maybe in a few years you're going to want to, and you're going to want to have access to that data on your audience so you can target people more specifically, get really granular with that data and use it to just boost your ads and become more effective in that way. So creating your personal marketing plan. So 3 forms, 3 ways to create and consume content: photo and video, audio, written word. When it really comes down to it, that's what we're working with. That's how people create and consume. And it's important to remember that ideally we would like to have content coming from our personal brand in all of these different ways, right? Because people consume content differently. There are some people who love to read blog posts, and there are other people who will never read a blog post and will only listen to podcasts. Everyone has their own preference. So when you create content in all of these different forms, you're making yourself more accessible to all of the different people that you're trying to serve, your audience. So the big question that you really should ask yourself is, which one of these do I excel at? Are you a great writer? And if so, if you are a great writer and that comes easily and naturally to you, that's where you really want to lean hard into. You want to lean into that. I mean, I actually will say that, all of it's important, but when it comes to written word and you're thinking about strategy and long-term big picture, written word is such an important part of building a brand. When you think about the copy on your website, when you think about the way that you're communicating with people via email or within a caption, I mean, it's just such a big part of it. And having a blog that you update regularly, while it might be a pain in the ass sometimes, it is one of the best ways to keep boosting your SEO. And also, it really puts you ahead of the game. It also is so important when someone is coming onto your website and they see your website full of all of these awesome blog posts, educational, encouraging, inspiring posts, that it's just like filled like an encyclopedia. And then they go on to another professional's website and the blog hasn't been updated in 2 years. Who do you think you're going to trust more?
Right.
So unfortunately, I know it's always such a hurdle for people, but I tell all of my clients and students, if you can get behind blogging once a week, it will change the game for you. So start thinking about that. And you can use that blog post and repurpose all of that copy in many different ways. So it's evergreen, it's lifetime value. So yes, ask yourself, which form of content do I like to create the best? And also when we're thinking about social media profiles and where you really want to invest a lot of your energy, the question you should ask is, of course, where's your biggest audience? Where does that live? For many of you, it's probably Instagram. And so a lot of the content, your best work should be on Instagram. So if you have a blog post that you've written and it's on your blog, you want to adapt it into a long form caption and use that on your Instagram because people will see it there. But the third question you have to ask yourself is, where do I see potential for growth? You don't want to invest all of your energy and put all of your eggs at the Instagram basket and not think about other platforms, because the world is changing. TikTok, I'm sure a lot of you are probably already on TikTok, but it's huge and such a great, there's so much potential to grow and really build an audience on that platform in a way that I think is very difficult to do on Instagram right now. So start thinking about, where are my strengths? Where do I want to really create content, and in which form do I want to press hard on? Like photo, video, written word, audio, maybe that's podcasting. That's also a big part of this too. But don't be overwhelmed by it. I say, and I think there's a slide that actually says this, but we'll continue on, and then I'll come back to that. When it comes to content, and I know I'm just throwing a lot at you, but when it comes to content, I kind of categorize it in this pyramid. So there's pillar, micro, filler. That pillar piece of content is long form content. So that would be your blog post. That would be a long form video. That could be a podcast episode. Those are like big pieces of content that take more time to create. But from those, you can repurpose, recycle, chop, cut, paste. There's a lot of ways that you can use one blog post, and it will really fill your calendar if you do it right. The micro pieces of content are social media posts, maybe like an Instagram photo with a caption, an email, maybe a newsletter that has a little bit of everything in it. Filler pieces of content are fast, easy content to create. This is your Instagram story of what you're making for dinner. This is your like to and from work. This is a quick chat. it's alive. It's just like filler. You fill it in. And this is typically more lifestyle content. It gives people a window into actually how you live your life versus educational, like long form pillar pieces of content that take more time to create, but also demonstrate your credibility and show people that you're an expert. So there has to be that there's both, and both work to support one another.
I love that.
And yes, okay, so when we're thinking about personal branding and the way to win online, it's the fastest way to build your credibility, to build a brand that you can be proud of, to build a community, is by sharing what you know online over and over and over again. It's about content every day, showing up online consistently. And so you have to think of yourself as a media company. You have to think of content as your job. That's the biggest way to really see exponential growth and for it to happen quickly. So, there has to be a blend. The professional aspect of what you do is important, but the personal aspect of who you are is just as important, if not more important. So as much as you want to educate and share your knowledge and expertise, you also want to incorporate personal stories, experiences, windows into how you live your life and what your relationship is like with your partner and your children and what you do on the weekends with your friends. All of that is just as important. And so you have to be walking that line between education and also personal experience, and be willing to share both sides of who you are.
I love that. I know we're just about at time, but if everyone has a few minutes to stay on, I would love to open up the floor to any questions that came up during the talk. That was so much great information, Anna. Thank you so much. Do you guys have any questions? You can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question. Yeah, Jessica.
I just want to say thank you. This is really great. And a lot of it, I have to say, is very validating. I was trying to show my self view, but it's not working. To get back, oh, here we go. It's very validating in terms of all the hard work putting into writing. I write a ton.
Good.
Oh, I've also shared my personal story over and over again in hopes that it will, reach. But it's been the past 2 years that I'm really trying to streamline into what you said about, it's not about reaching everyone. It's about this organic connection to people, because this is what's going to also, by the way, in the big picture of life, make us live in a more connected world anyway. So thank you so much for this. Has been incredible. And I got your Instagram and your email, so thank you for that. I do have a couple questions that I'll ask you offline, but I just want to say thank you. This was really great. Thanks
for that feedback, Jessica. I'm glad to hear that you are writing, because it's such a big part of it. And even, I don't know if you found this too. I tell my clients this all the time, just the act of actually sitting down to write every day just makes you a more effective communicator and speaker, and helps you articulate yourself more powerfully.
I mean, I'm a storyteller anyway, and why I love being on podcasts. And what I've done is several of my podcasts, I've had them transcribed.
Yes.
And I can, because the way I speak is always, there's a flow. It's why I coach and teach well and speak well. So that sometimes helps, because it can be daunting to sit down and write all the time. It's
totally
hard. It's a hard task. I'm writing a book and it's very challenging, but to speak your truth as much as possible, whether it's in a podcast or in a post or in a blog, in your newsletter, is the way people connect. Yes. And I appreciate just validating my experience of when, especially when it gets like, but
say like vulnerability hangover all the time.
Reading my friends and the people I support, and I'm reading what they're writing, and I've done that with like almost everyone on here. When I'm really reading, I'm really connecting, and this is keeping us connected. KK's like hundreds and thousands of miles away, and yet we all still feel so connected. And there are people I've become close to just virtually, or I've never met in person and have that with. So that's really a great message you have at the root of what you're talking about. So thank you.
You're speaking my language. I love your energy.
I love it. Yes. Thank you, Jess, for sharing that.
I'm from the Bay Area too, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, we got lots to talk about.
And Christy, are you there? Because I know that you are in the process of, figuring out what area you want to focus on and how you want to present yourself in your own business. Do you have any specific questions for Anna? Because I feel like this talk is really speaking to where you're at right now.
Yes, definitely. Like right now, I'm in the thick of it. And I was sharing with KK and the rest of the group, Anna, that I'm lucky because I do have my husband and he creates amazing things for me. And like whatever I want, he'll just make it and it's beautiful. But my problem has been consistency. And my problem has also been just mentally picking a lane and just going full force in that lane and not in the midst of it, turning back and saying, oh, should I really pick this? Should I be doing that? And it's just being confident and going forward because I was saying I do so many different things. So my personal brand, I do want it to be clear and I want it to be effective. And I know it takes me showing up consistently, but a lot of times I get so stuck in my mind of, am I doing the right thing? Should I be going this way versus that way? Because not only do I do fitness, I also have a nutrition brand. It's called This Green. And it's one product and I do like total body resets. It's like a total body reset is basically a mind, body, spirit reset detox type program. And it's 10 days. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the midst of kind of tailoring that down a little bit more because 10 days seems to be too long for people. So I'm thinking about shortening it to improve the success rate, because initially I'm like 10 days would be nothing, but people are just failing at 10 days. They can't stay focused and do it for that long. So I want to I'm not going to go into the depths of that, but as you can see, I just have like split energy. So
Christy, I mean, I want to validate it's all of our biggest struggle. I mean, it feels sometimes impossible, especially when we are our business, to try to pull it all together and make it feel cohesive. And I want to, let you know that I think one of the most powerful things about personal branding is you have the freedom and the ability to share all of it. It makes sense. It can be a part of your personal brand. It's relevant because it's happening to you. It's a part of your story. You can share about all of these different aspects and facets of your life. It all belongs there. I always say, like, you don't have to find your niche because you are your niche. And the way that you make it consistent and the way that you make it clear is you do want to focus in on, what is the overall message? How do I, hold on, I have it coming to me. The sentence is coming to me. When you look at the person that you want to serve, I think what you should ask yourself is, how do I want to help that person? And who is the person that my ideal brand adopter wants to become? Who is that person? And many times when you're thinking about putting together a program or, a signature offer, I think what's so cool is when you are able to take all of your knowledge and expertise from a variety of different industries and experiences and put that together into one awesome program that doesn't necessarily focus on helping people achieve certain things, but rather on becoming this person that they really aspire to be. So it's multifaceted, multi-passionate. And when you put the focus on that, on becoming, on identity, then you have freedom. then you don't pigeonhole yourself into one area. I only focus on this, or I only focus on nutrition or fitness. It's not on that. It's about the person that is evolving.
I love that, Anna. I love that. And I would just add to that, Christy, that it's not a problem that you have multiple avenues of your business. It is to your benefit, because the best way to serve your customer is to help them from multiple angles of their life.
Yeah.
So for example, I'm going to bring it back to Oprah. Oprah doesn't have to just choose one thing that she plays in. She's not only, you know, a show host, she not only has Oprah's book club. I also learned from Oprah by doing the Deepak and Oprah meditation app, which I've downloaded. I also learned from Oprah by listening to her Super Soul Sundays, where she brings on really amazing business owners or CEOs that talk about, you know, elevating your education in business. So there's like, just right off the bat, there's 3 avenues that I consume what Oprah is creating.
Right.
So she doesn't have to say, I'm only going to do one thing because it's too confusing for my clients. She's saying, how can I better serve my client in every area of their life, to what Anna is saying, to become who they want to be. So I think it's to your benefit that you have multiple avenues that you're providing value.
You don't have, and that's why I hate when like traditional business coaches or marketers are like, niche down and you have to find a specific little, like, no, we're not doing that. Because what that does is it just like cuts our energy up in half. It just like severs all of the things that make us who we are. You know, it's like, that's your strength, is pulling from these parts of your life. Right.
Yeah,
So
that's so true, because I was talking to her about my YouTube channel, and I have a YouTube channel that I've been neglecting. And so I'm going to put more energy back into it, because I really thrive with videos. I like making videos. And I see that there's a place for me as far as creating like indoor cycling videos. People are buying these bikes, they have them in their homes, and they're looking for more instructors that they like to learn from. So I want to make those videos, but I've already been making, you know, other videos. And, you know, in your research, I've been looking, and the people who do fitness, they just do fitness. And so I'm like, I see myself as doing so much more than just teaching a fitness class.
Yep. And you know what? If you want it to do all of it, share all of it, be all of it. If you want to have a through line and you still want to have a consistent, like cohesive brand, where you pull it all together is in the message. So through all of those things, what is the underlying deep message that you want to communicate to people? So I'll give you an example. So for me, it's about really helping people understand who they are and have the courage to live that out loud, to be authentically who they are. Helping people. That's what my message is about. And I do that in many different ways. But for you, I would look at your own work that you've done in your own life, and some of the biggest lessons that you've had to learn, and the most, like the strongest, the thing that that you hold the closest to you. What is that message that you hope other people will be able to learn from your stories and from everything that you've done? I think that's where the through line is.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that so much. Yes.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And I think, Christy, it comes back to mindfulness, but we can circle back to that on our weekly call, but that's a great question and to pose to the group, to just explore that question.
We should do a little follow-up on this.
Yeah. We'd love that.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're over time. Thank you guys so much for joining today. And thank you, Anna, for all your wise insight. This is so helpful. Even just hearing some of this stuff again, like each time I hear you speak, another part of your message sinks in with me. So thank you so much for being here. And thanks to the group for showing up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks,
Thank
you
you,
guys.
KK.